I'm Judge Andrew Napolitano, and this is Freedom Watch. We've reported on rights violations recently, such as a Columbia, Missouri SWAT raid on a family home that turned up only enough drug paraphernalia to result in a misdemeanor charge and a $300 fine, but resulted in the family dog being shot dead and a 7-year-old child being terrified by machine gun-toting cops. This was no isolated incident, though. Such horrors are commonplace and will continue to happen for as long as the government fights its losing war on drugs. In early May, a New Jersey man was taken into custody by cops for shooting video of them while they performed a practice raid on an abandoned home in his neighborhood using smoke-generated explosive devices and apparently not expecting to raise any alarms or questions among the locals. Meanwhile, despite the concept of medical marijuana becoming more popular and even legal in many states, the government keeps finding new ways to tighten the screws on citizens who might be using drugs that are lawful in the place of use under local law. This month, the Obama administration released its new National Drug Control Policy Guidelines, and one feature is the adoption at the national level of a policy that already exists in many states. It would become a criminal offense to have any detectable amount of chemicals from marijuana in your blood while driving, even if the marijuana use occurred weeks or months earlier, and even if there is no evidence that your driving was impaired as a result of it. Where will they stop? Joining us next to discuss draconian anti-drug laws and the resulting extreme tactics of police is Paul Armentano, Deputy Director of the group NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Paul, it's a pleasure. Welcome back. We've heard talk about the Obama administration taking a more tolerant attitude toward marijuana and drugs. Has anything changed from the Bush Justice Department and the Bush policies to the Obama Justice Department and the Obama policies?
You know, Judge, there was an AP story, a terrific Associated Press story that came out last week that said in 40 years of engaging in this so-called war on drugs from the federal level, we've spent as taxpayers over $1 trillion, yet we have failed to meet any stated goals. The reason this drug war has continued decade after decade after decade is because regardless of the administration in power, whether it's Democrat or whether it's Republican,
right,
both sides are really the same coin when it comes to drug war policies. We have heard lip service from this administration that they are going to engage in a balanced approach to dealing with illicit drug policies.
All right.
In this
Has the Eric Holder Department of Justice, Paul, indicated that it will not prosecute personal users of medical marijuana in states where the state law allows the use of medical marijuana? Or are they going to take the Bush approach, which resulted in that dreadful Supreme Court opinion, Raich versus Gonzalez, that all marijuana is illegal everywhere in the United States under all circumstances, no matter what the states say?
Well, if you're going to find one discrepancy between this administration and the previous administration, that fortunately would be it. This administration did pledge that if individuals are using medical marijuana compliant with the laws of their state, that the federal government, for the most part, would back off. And I'm pleased to say that, in general, this administration has held by that promise. We're disappointed, however, to see that, as you mentioned, in this latest drug control strategy, it's simply more of the same. It calls for more money, mostly to go toward more enforcement, and we're going to continue to see the trampling of civil liberties, and we're going to continue to see the excessive use of force by law enforcement to try and unsuccessfully deter private adult behavior that often occurs absent harm to others.
Do you think that the federal government is interested in prosecuting the war on drugs, notwithstanding its abysmal failure from every point of view: human life, morality, taxpayer dollars, failure of objective. However you want to look at it, it's a dismal failure. Paul, do you think that they really want to keep doing this because they want to keep jobs for DEA agents, budgets flowing in the direction of various law enforcement entities, things for these federal cops to do?
Well, most certainly, you're right. The war on drugs has been an incredible job creation program for law enforcement, for federal bureaucrats, for certain state agencies. You know, 30, 40 years ago, we didn't even have a U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. We didn't even have local towns and municipalities being armed with SWAT officers. We simply didn't have these sort of budgets to fund these type of organizations. And the only reason they exist today is to carry out the so-called war on drugs, a war that was launched under Nixon 40 years ago with budgets that are really nominal compared to the amount of money that we're spending today. Look, we've arrested over 20 million Americans in this country since 1965 just for marijuana. Just for marijuana, not even accounting for the other drugs. We are spending an inconceivable amount of taxpayer dollars at the state, federal, and local level, yet we have not dissuaded the use of illicit substances in this country at any time, and even the drug czar will admit to that.
Paul, before I let you go, you made some very kind public comments about our work on Freedom Watch with respect to that raid in Columbia, Missouri, and I thank you for them. We'll keep watching that story, and we won't hold our breaths waiting for the feds to indict those cops for the violations of the civil liberties of the people that lived in that house. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.